Thank you for listening to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast, available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Stitcher. Also, please follow Matt's Movie Reviews on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Reddit, Instagram, and MeWe. And of course, be sure to visit mattsmoviereviews.net for the latest reviews, top 10 lists, and more. Now, on to the show.
We moved in here around 6 months ago. Some pretty weird stuff started happening. We heard the skeleton crew was coming over to Asia, and we desperately need your help.
This is truly an honor. My wife and I were big fans of your show.
When I was a kid, I used to see them, talk to them.
You must think that we made all this stuff up.
I think sometimes we want these things to be real. What is that?
What?
That noise?
What happened down there?
Whatever it is, it's haunting that house. Touched me. It's trying to make contact.
We've got them wired to every corner of the house. So if something turns up, we'll get it on tape.
You touch something?
No. Go. To the right.
We've done haunted houses before, possessions, exorcisms, you name it. This is the first time in the history of the show that we've ever come close to actually proving the existence of the paranormal. Ben?
Oh! Scared the hell out of me, man. You okay?
He's having a seizure!
It's a man in my dream!
Last night, we had so much fun.
Hello and welcome to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast. I am your host, Matthew Pejkovic, and this is episode number 466. Releasing October 7 in theaters across the US is Don't Look at the Demon, a demonic possession horror thriller by way of Malaysia that stars Fiona Dourif as a troubled medium who encounters a terrifying case of possession. A dark and terrifying twist on a demonic possession film, Don't Look at the Demon also has the distinction of being the first Malaysian movie in history to hit US theaters. And joining me now to talk about Don't Look at the Demon is the film's director, Brando Lee. Brando, thank you so very much for joining me today.
You're very welcome, Matthew.
That little tidbit there I just mentioned about Don't Look at the Demon being the first Malaysian movie in history to like hit US theaters. That is such a distinction to have right there. How does that feel like for you yourself as a filmmaker? Interestingly enough, a filmmaker who, even though growing up in Malaysia, you had a steady diet of Hollywood films, Star Wars, The Exorcist, Jaws, and here is your film. Your horror movie, opening up across 250 screens across the US. It must have been a great thrill for you to be, the first in your country to achieve that.
Yeah. It's been wonderful. It's been wonderful. I think I'm so thankful to all the supports from everyone, especially from the financier as well, my business partner, to stick with me for so many years. And being the first Malaysian film to open up in the theaters across the United States, it's really an honor. It's so amazing, so wonderful, to have the experience, And I'm hoping with this, I'm kind of not to say that I'm going to be the pioneer or something, but I'm just hoping that it will kind of pave the way for other filmmakers, fellow filmmakers in Malaysia as well, push harder, to push to something that you never done before, beyond what you imagine. Just push it hard.
Just to follow up on that, what's the film industry like in Malaysia? Is it a growing industry? Is it something that's been thriving for a while? Can you just run us through, briefly, just like what the state of the industry is like these days? Especially when it comes to horror cinema, has it become something that's become much more prominent, that genre in your home country?
Yeah. Of course, Malaysia has been ups and downs with the film industry, but lately it has been quite good, especially after the pandemic. It seems like it's kind of better than even prior to the pandemic. So lately we have a couple of films that really hit huge box office theatrically. Everybody just walked in, to the theater to watch film. I don't know why. Maybe this is the the characteristics of Malaysians. We love to go outdoors. In the restaurants, everything is flooded with people. For horror movies, basically, it's a huge genre in Asia, especially in Malaysia too. So we used to have like censorship. We couldn't have ghosts, in the film. It had to be like the unreal ghosts, like in dreams or imagination and stuff like that. But that had been aborted 15 years ago, 17 years ago, and we got the first hand to do whatever we want on the horror scene, as long as it doesn't go against certain guidelines, like full nudity and stuff like that, or against certain national religion and some cultural sensitivity. As long we do not do that, I think pretty much we are pretty much okay with that. My film only got one cut in Malaysia, which is the full nudity. Of course, I got to respect that, So the rest all stayed in, and I'm very happy with that,
So the first thing that kind of came to my mind when I was, have received the email about your movie and just reading up about your statement about the film is that you said in your statement that you had certain experiences in your past that kind of, I wouldn't say inspired, but at least, formed a certain relationship you had with the supernatural, I'd imagine. So the first question I had to ask in regards to that is, what are those experiences that you had in your past that really kind of inspired you to go down this road that while I'm watching Don't Look at the Demon, I'm thinking, oh my God, I need to know what's going on here.
All right. Okay. First of all, the personal experience is one thing. My first experience in watching horror movie, I think I was like 4 or 5 years old when my mom and dad took me to watch The Exorcist.
Wow.
And there are certain images that really left behind my mind and linger around for so long, especially those classic scenes when the young girl twisted her head, vomiting, puking, levitating and stuff like that. It stays so long in my mind, Of course, that is one thing aside. And then when I was around like 8, 9 years old, 10 years old, if I'm not mistaken, I felt like certain achings on my elbows, my knees, And then I found out the same thing happened to my parents, my elder sisters. Well, we tried to visit doctor, but doctor said nothing was wrong with us. So instead, we were introduced to a Siamese temple, a Thai temple, Basically, we went and visited the monk. The monk said that, well, there was certain spell or cast on us, in a way that, that feel that, you see. So having that problem. And my dad, I think my late father was even worse, I think he was feeling the aching throughout the whole body. And then we were told to bring in some raw eggs, before cooked, So we brought in our own eggs, for the monk to chant, to do a ritual. And he would chant mantra, and I was young, I didn't know. And then he will hold the eggs gently, kind of rub against our legs, the body parts that I felt the aching. And then we suddenly chant just right in front of us, just broke the eggs, and then we could see rusted nails coming out together with the eggs, rusted nails. It just couldn't make sense to me. I was like, where did it come from? All these nails, like the more aches, the more pain you had, the bigger, the longer the rusted nail is, And after a few sections of the treatment, I felt so much better. So, and there's no more nails, there wasn't any more nails coming out, even my father, and we didn't have to pay. All we need to do is just do some donations to the temple. It wasn't like scam or whatever. I try to record it as much as I can. It wasn't a scam at all. It was so clear, and he was a monk. So I got to respect that. As a religion, as a Buddhist, I respect the monk. As far as I can say, I think he's very genuine out there to help people up. It's like some kind of black magic, some witchcraft that that happened to us.
The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by Teapublic. Teapublic is the world's largest marketplace for independent creators to sell their work on the highest quality merchandise. With over 1.2 million designs, Teapublic is sure to have something you'll love. The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by Amazon. The world's leading online store, Amazon is your first stop to buy a wide range of products at competitive prices with fast delivery times. Amazon is also a world-class entertainment hub that includes Prime Video, Audible, Twitch, Amazon Music, and more. Sign up with Amazon today and experience the best in online shopping and entertainment. I think what's important in regards to your movie is that, it seems to me that the biggest film I get sent to me, genre-wise in horror cinema, is the demonic possession movie. And I think there's a reason for that. There's of course, independent filmmakers have budget limitations. And I think Paranormal Activity really showed people that you can make that kind of movie on a shoestring on budget. Not to say that that's the same with your film, but I get a lot of them. And what I really appreciate about Don't Look at the Demon is that there is a different kind of angle towards it. And of course, it has to do with location. Of course, it has to do with the spiritual side of the film, because when dealing with demonic possession, you are dealing with subjects of spirituality and religion, theology, etc. So there are things in this movie that are totally alien to me. I've never seen of before. And one of them is something called, and forgive my pronunciation here, Kuman Thong. That's kind of like I would say it's kind of like a Malaysian black magic, maybe. It depends. I think it depends on the practitioner or what have you. From what I know, Kuman Thong, that means golden boy in Thai. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is actually a Thai word. Kuman Thong is a Thai word, yeah.
And what is it exactly, so we can just explain to the audience who probably haven't heard of it before? Because I know that I haven't heard of it before until I watched your movie.
Okay. Well, me either. I didn't hear about this until I started to do research about this subject matter. But I did hear about people kind of playing with the spirits of the kids in the East, especially in Southeast Asia. A lot of them, they actually have them. I don't want to say to rear them, but to have them. With them. For protections, to help out businesses. Stuff like that. And some, the bad ones, they would send out to do bad things. To curse people, to send out spells to people and stuff like that. So I started to do a lot of research on this when I found out that I could kind of combine the experience that I have and with my understanding with this. And then I visited many times of the Thai temple that I depicted in the film. It's a real Thai temple that I went to visit for so many times. And of course, other than the guy that played the monk, there were two monks sitting at the back. They're both real monks. And one of them actually I consulted at that time, and he helped me up so many times. And he told me how he did his exorcism and what feeling he got into, the coldness, the freezing feeling of the coldness in his heart. So I was thinking, how should I try to convey that into visuals? So I think the best way is to add in all the cold breath. I think there were not many films that have that, except the first Exorcist, 1974. Yes. It was shot in a huge breach, and it was cold. You could see the breath coming out 2 feet. So my situation, I just put it up 5 inches. So to simulate that to show the coldness of the feeling in it whenever they come to. So in terms of the Kuman Thong, it was something new to me in terms of even the terminology itself, until I was told, it's basically an immature death of the pregnancy, the fetuses. And a lot of people just dump them, some abortion. Of course, here we can lead into another subject matter of abortion, with the kids. So the monk, what they do is normally they will have the compassion to take care of them. And we believe, the souls of the baby were still around, even though the body, the physical form is no longer there for them to be with, right? So what the monk did was to take them, to kind of to welcome them, to embrace them, to help them up, to give them a better place, to chant with them, to give them some blessing and stuff like that, So this is what Kumantong is, But if you have the bad intention, of course, they will do things for you, like the story in the house, the story of the house, the story in the film. Yeah.
It's such a unique kind of, because I was just reading up about the history of it and the mythology associated with it. It's just incredible to kind of read about that and to see that in the film as well. It can be very confrontational, some of the scenes in your movie. You said before that you only had one cut to do for the film, which is surprising to me, because I think even for Western audiences, some of the scenes in the movie can be confrontational, especially in regards to the violence. When it came to putting those scenes on film, what was it? What type of ideas were you generating? Did you have kind of like a list of ways to kind of like, different ways to scare the audience, to horrify the audience? There are scenes that I think are really reminiscent of kind of like what William Friedkin did with The Exorcist. Watching that film at such a young age and having such an impression on you, were you thinking about shooting scenes like these for a very long time, and this is your opportunity to really put it on film? I'm very curious about that.
I think it's more actually inspiration. Yeah, we look into good stuff in films. We pick them. As a film director, most of the time we will get inspired. We get inspired, and then we will tell the story in our own way. And one thing, I think, being truthful to what you know, being truthful to what the understanding, the experience that you have, the story that you want to tell. Don't exaggerate, don't over exaggerate it, So I think that is my belief. It's my belief. I didn't have like a list of the scare methods, So I was just like, not to say that somebody told me, wow, you have everything in the film. You have the jump scare, you have the visual scare, you have all kind of elements in it. It's like a new era of horror. Well, to me, I didn't think about that much. I was just trying to tell a story within that 93 minutes. Here you go. That's how it came about.
And what's also interesting in Don't Look at the Demon, it's kind of like a merging in regards to not only Eastern and Western horror genre tropes come together. It's also kind of like a merging of the different kind of spiritual beliefs as well. When it comes to demonic possession movie, of course, kind of like Christianity, especially Catholicism, is very kind of prominent in those movies. But in your movie, of course, it being based in Malaysia, the Buddhist religion, especially in the beliefs in that, are very much prominent in that. Of course, we're talking about different folklore and mythology and theologies. They kind of all come together, not only in regards to spirituality, but the iconography as well. Your movie features a lot of crucifixes. It has a lot of Western religious iconography. Then you also kind of like the other side of the coin, which is kind of like the Buddhist traditions and such as well. What was the idea of getting those two kind of things put together? Were you very much aware that you were going to have as many Western audiences looking at this film as much as Eastern audiences, and you wanted to kind of like, cater to both kind of people so they can relate to the spiritual battle happening on the screen?
Okay. I've got to confess that my wife is a Christian. I'm a Buddhist. So that, I think you can tell from the first place, the mixtures of two different religions, in my family. So, and then in Malaysia, growing up in Malaysia, basically we have 3 different races and we have different religion as well. Of course, Islam is being the national religion, but we have the freedom to worship, to believe in different faith, in Christianity, in Buddhism, in Confucian, and all this, So to me, putting them together in a film is very natural to me. It's natural to me, because I see them all the time. I met them all the time. I have friends from different religions around me too, So in a way that I did not think of like intentionally to put these two religions together. Again, I was being truthful to what I believe, that within the story that I got to tell, I got to have these two elements in it, and of course, because I have it with me, myself, and the next one next to me, my wife. So, and I think that's the reason, I think, why I did it that way.
Starring in the film is Fiona Dourif, and she is the daughter of the great Brad Dourif. We're talk about horror cinema. I mean, Brad Dourif is like, the person, the voice behind Chucky in Child's Play. He's in The Exorcist Part 3, which I think is one of the great demonic possession movies of all time. And Fiona does absolutely terrific work in your movie as the medium Jules in the film. What was it like casting her in the movie and working with her in the film? Because she does really give not only a really kind of like emotional performance, but really kind of physical performance as well. You really put your cast through the ringer when it comes to the performances in this film.
Yeah, she's excellent. The first time I met her, we spoke for 2 hours. I think 2 to 3 hours. We met up, we had coffee, talk about the films, talk about the life. We talk about all the belief that we have. Well, I found out her mom was actually a very, very established psychic with the NASA, one of the very first batch of special psychics in United States, established by NASA. Kind of strange, though, in the 70s. And her mom was one of the leaders. I think if you go to Google her mom, you can find more about her mom. And she told me her mom could read the cards, without flipping, so she could read behind it, So I believe she carries a little bit of that. She has that, So when I look into her eyes, the soul to herself, I think I could see her really playing this character so well, and we clicked, and she worked really hard. She had lots of questions. I never worked with an actress or actors that have so many questions, diving deep into the characters, about everything, about being in the characters herself. And then she was really being the character throughout the entire shoot, and all the physical performance, she insisted that she wanted to do it herself. And then we talk about it as well, how the possession scene should be like and stuff like that. She did amazing job.
Another actor in your film, Merlin Crippen, who plays Martha in the movie, she's terrific in the film too. I think out of everyone in the film does great work in it. Harris Dickinson as well as Ben, who is very much kind of like one of the center characters as well. They have to do a lot of things in the film. They're incredibly physically demanding. These actors are being thrown, dragged, contorted into different kinds. They almost look like a pretzel kind of way it's kind of done. How do you manage to achieve that kind of like on the screen? Because when you look back, we talking briefly about The Exorcist before, the things that William Friedkin had to do in that movie to achieve getting his actors to do that, a lot of times kind of cross the line. A lot of people don't do it that way anymore. That's 70s styles filmmaking gone. But when it comes to today's filmmaking sensibilities, what are you able to do with your actors to make them achieve those kind of like, physical feats? Do you use a lot of stunt doubles? Is there a lot of choreography? Is there a lot of rehearsal? How do you manage to pull that off on the screen?
Definitely, there's a lot of rehearsal, a lot of choreography. And I have to convince them. I have to convince them in many ways. They have to believe in me that it's achievable. And I had my stunt team repeatedly doing the same stunts many times in front of them, showing them exactly what they should do and the understanding of the stunt as well, So I work closely with the stunt team to pull it through, So, and they all really want to try it out. Every one of them had that physical challenge. Every one of them got pulled by the wire and stuff like that, got flown somehow. Even the husband got thrown away.
Great shot, by the way. I love that shot in the movie. Yeah, it's an awesome one. I think something that's really great about what's happening with Don't Look at the Demon is that not only are you showing in theaters in the US, but you're showing in 250 theaters. And, you talked before about how the people in Malaysia are really going to cinemas in droves. And here in Australia, people are going back to cinemas as well. I'm sure people listening in the US will have the same experience. People going back into theaters, into that small room where the lights will go down and you watch a movie as a community. A lot of films these days go straight to digital. They will go straight to streaming. But your film's going to be in cinemas. The way I'm sure you intended the movie to be seen. I'm sure for yourself as a filmmaker, growing up watching films in the theater, in the cinema, that it is a great treat that not only will people in the Western audiences be watching your film, but they're going to watch it in the theater, not at home, not on a phone, in the theater. I'm sure out of everything that we've talked about, that going back to the times when you were a young boy watching The Exorcist at such a young age, that you'll be able now to kind of like give another young child, unassuming of what's going to be in front of them, the same experience you had. So in maybe 30, 40 years, they're going to grow up to be a filmmaker like yourself. I'm sure it's going to be a really great thing for you.
Yeah. It's going to be so amazing, from the way it's going to be presented in the theaters. Because the film was designed for cinema. It wasn't designed for the small screens, It's amazing. Yeah.
I think so too. I think people are really going to get a kick of what Don't Look at the Demon has to provide, especially now, Halloween season. This is the time where people are going out to watch scary movies. So everyone listening, October 7 across theaters across the US and Canada as well. So across North America, Don't Look at the Demon. If you guys want to check out a really scary demonic possession movie with a twist, with a different angle coming from the eastern side of things as opposed to the usual demonic possession movie, I really recommend everyone check this film out. Get ready to be scared. Get ready to be terrified. Get ready for that popcorn to be thrown up in the air, because there are scenes in this movie that will get you. As they did get me, and I really appreciate that. And Brando Lee, I thank you so very much for your time today. Congratulations with the film, and hopefully we get to talk again in the future with future releases. It's been a pleasure to talk to you today.
Been my pleasure too. Thank you so much, Matthew, for having me.
Thank you for watching the Matt's Movie Reviews channel. Please subscribe for more reviews, podcast interviews, and exclusive content. Also, if you would like to request a review and support my work, please join my Patreon via the link in the description below.